Okay.
Hello, Sober on Purpose family, Blessed Family Recovery Summit, and all of Daniel Packard's audience as well. We are thrilled to be here. We have just enjoyed bringing you information. And so today we're doing a deeper dive, and Daniel's going to tell you more about that. I'm also going to announce my Grace and Recovery Framework program that's coming out in the new year. And Daniel has some exciting things for you. So thank you for being here with us. We can see some of your comments, but we can't see all of your comments. So we would love things to light up on the board. If you want to tell us where you're from, if you're off for the holiday already, give us some little chatter in the Facebook groups. What we can't see, we will get to after the program. So thank you so much for being here. So Daniel, love being with you one more time. Tell us what we're going to do today.
Well, as your listeners know, you definitely help people and families with addiction. For those of you who may or may not know, my company, Permanent Anxiety Solutions, came up over 8 years to develop a permanent, simple solution for anxiety. And I've been sharing in other episodes with your audience, I've been explaining an explanation that makes that easy to understand because people are so used to relating to mental health and it's very confusing and complicated. And when we say, hey, we can solve this and it's simple, they're like, it can't be simple. Look how long I've had this. Look how many different theories there are. So I create this very simple explanation that makes it simple to understand. But sometimes people want to know, okay, that's simple, easy to understand, but I want to go deeper. So that's what we're going to go one level deeper. Now, just to bring your audience quickly up to speed, what the surface level explanation is, so this makes sense, is our team figured out that anxiety is not a problem of the mind, but of the body, specifically the nervous system. Your nervous system is making you extra nervous, aka anxious, scared, worried, overwhelmed, panicked. And we figured out over 8 years how to restore and heal the nervous system so it's strong and healthy like a kid's. And when it's healthy, the symptom goes away. So that's the simple mechanical explanation of what anxiety is that makes it solvable. Before we go deeper, any questions or thoughts that you want to share, Tanya?
So, as we were talking, one of the things that we were talking about was safety. And that's a lot of what happens with families with addiction is it becomes unsafe to talk, to share, to tell, to converse. And then either before, after, in between, anxiety just starts happening and people shut down. And I know you experienced this with the shutdown. So I see this as so valuable for folks who are dealing with addiction in their lives and their families themselves is how do I deal with the anxiety so I just don't close everything off? I mean, you have a great story about ending up in a fetal position after after an inciting incident for you.
Yeah, and I know this may not, you may not see this as high level insight. You just can't be yourself when you're in the fetal position. It's just, we're not our best selves. You, so, yes, what we're going to talk about has huge implications for both anxiety, but also addiction because you can't show up for people or yourself the way you want when you're filled with fear. When we're filled with fear, our heart closes up. We can't be in our higher self. You can't be loving when you're terrified. That's probably a quote in the Bible. I don't know, but it's probably in there on some level. Should be a bumper sticker. So we're going to go deeper, and that was a perfect segue. So I'm always trying to make things simple. And one way to make things simple is to look at a lot of the symptoms that people are experiencing and saying, well, what's the root cause? People like to know the root cause. Okay, so there's different names for this thing called anxiety. Some people say, well, I'm really worried. Some people say, I'm really scared. Some people say, I'm really stressed. Some people say, I'm anxious. Some people say, I'm panicking. Some people say, I'm catastrophizing. Some people just say, I'm scared. Okay, so if you look at all those words are describing something more basic. What do you think the core emotion that all those individual labels are actually describing? Like, what's the core emotion? Keyword, the emotion that stress, fear, anxious, nervous, overwhelmed, panicked, anxious describes.
If I don't hit the right one, you fill me in. I would say a lot of mine stems from fear, and in my world, we call it downward spiraling. That I'm going to take one tiny little fear, and I'm just going to, like you said, catastrophize it into the world is ending today.
Gold stars to you, Tanya, and anybody who said fear. Fear is the correct answer.
Boom, 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 boom.
And also, once you're afraid, yes, you will spiral, because once you're afraid, then you have scary thoughts. The scary thoughts make you more afraid, and you get caught. We call it in our curriculum the spin cycle, where you just get thrown in. Okay, but again, let's keep it simple. KISS, keep it simple, sexy. Okay, that's what I always tell people. So, it's fear.
Yeah.
Fear. Now, maybe your audience is thinking, well, of course, Danielle, I'm afraid. Well, okay, yeah, but it has all these different names. And if you think it has, I have social anxiety. I have workplace anxiety. I have social media. If you think you have all these problems, but what if, on some level, you're feeling fear? I'm sure your audience can appreciate, like, yeah, I guess I'm feeling fear, and then it's showing up in all these different ways. Agreed?
Oh, yeah. And especially the family thinks, okay, I'm feeling fear, so I need to control everything so that I can stop feeling fear.
Yes. It doesn't take me, a person who knows a lot about people, and you know a lot about people, to tell people you're feeling fear, and that fear is making life harder on so many levels. People know this. You don't need me to tell you or Tanya to know. You're like, hey, you're feeling fear, okay? From the time I was very small on the playground and there were kids way bigger than me, I knew what fear was, okay? So, but if we want to solve this, we got to go deeper. So people know they're afraid, but why does a person feel afraid? Now, again, if you ask a person, why do they feel afraid? You're going to get all these theories. Well, it's my family. They did this thing that scared me. I'm worried about the economy. My kids are doing this. Someone said this about me. And they'll start giving you all these reasons why they are afraid. Agreed?
Agreed. And then we internalize it.
Yes. A lot of things happen. The issue is people are misdiagnosing what is creating the fear. They're looking to the outside because they're feeling fear, and they're looking outside, and then they're thinking, oh, that must be the thing. And if you don't understand human mechanics or slow things down to really take a look, like I do with a lot of people, you'll think, oh, it's that thing. That thing popped up. I'm feeling fear. It looks like the thing. Trust me. And these circuits fire in about 1/10 of a second. So if somebody walks into the room, gives you a look, and you feel fear, it looks like it's them.
Absolutely.
The problem is, if you think it's them, it robs you of your power, because I don't know if you've figured this out yet, Tanya, and your listeners, you can't change people.
That's our key, is that you can't change others, but you don't have to give your power away either.
Yes. Now, people know this. They're like, oh, I'm giving my power away. I shouldn't care. I shouldn't. I know, but still, it keeps happening. Why? Why, even though we know we're responsible on some level, even though in the moment you're like, I am right and they are wrong. However, anybody who is listening to your audience or my audience probably has some deeper understanding of, like, yes, I'm in on it. I'm in on it. But they can't stop it. Why? Because what's underneath fear? If you are afraid, I don't care what's going on, other people, the economy, social media, your bank account, I don't care what's going on. If you are feeling fear, underneath fear, 99.9999 times out of 100, underneath that fear is you feel unsafe.
Yes.
Yes. If you feel unsafe, your body thinks you're in danger. Our bodies are designed to stay alive, aka stay safe. Don't get eaten and keep enough food so we stay alive. We are wired for safety. You can say, oh, we're so complex and everyone. No. We are glorified monkeys at our best, and we are wired to stay alive. And to stay alive, you must stay safe. So if anything looks unsafe, your body has this beautiful machinery that sends up a feeling to get your attention. That feeling is fear.
Now, wait, Daniel. So when my bank account looks unsafe, then I'm going to display fear, and I might get anxious with my family members.
Absolutely. You will notice your bank account. You will think if your bank account is too low or runs out, that you or your family are unsafe, which will create a feeling of fear, which you will then name, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I'm scared, I'm worried. then your mind can kick in and think, oh, we're going to run out of money, which just makes you more afraid and we're off to the races. But underneath there, you looked at the bank account and those numbers somehow to you made you feel unsafe, which makes sense. We need money to stay alive. So it makes sense. But let's just keep things simple so we understand the mechanics. What you looked at the bank account, somewhere you felt unsafe, which created a feeling of fear, which you then labeled worry, concern, overwhelm, panic. And then the mind kicks in thinking there's a huge problem and tries to solve the problem. And then your mind starts spinning and doing all those things.
And then we are in the spin cycle and I'm watching it go round and round and round and I can't get out.
You can't get out because it's two reflexes that are linked. If you feel fear in the body, your mind thinks there's a threat and will try and solve the threat. The problem is the mind isn't constructive. If the mind was helpful for about 30 seconds, it would say, okay, Tanya, well, the bank account isn't where you want. Let's maybe create a strategy to work on finances. Like, that's what the mind should do. Instead, it says like, oh my God, you are doomed. You and your family are screwed if you don't figure this out and figure it out fast. And who are you? You should have... The mind is like a drunk friend who's kind of trying to help you, but really doesn't help you, which then scares you more.
Dialing, right? Just keeps dialing over and over and over and telling you the same thing.
Yeah. So if your body is feeling fear, your mind thinks there's a problem and starts saying scary things. It's trying to solve the problem just in a really messy way. And when it says scary things, you then believe the mind and you feel more afraid. And both are reflexes and they get locked into this cycle called the spin cycle. And it's almost impossible to get out.
So let's take that to the family that has addiction. If I think my husband, my child, my wife, my whoever is using a substance or gambling or overspending, my mind is doing exactly the same thing. I need to solve it now. But like you said, I love that analogy. It is like a drunk friend who just keeps redialing and saying the same thing over and over again. And then what does my body do?
It feels unsafe. And part of the reason it feels unsafe is because the narrative of the mind is scary. It's judgmental. What's wrong with you? Why didn't you get your act together? You better do this. Not only does it turn up the volume trying to motivate you, which is scary. They'll be like, you're screwed. You're doomed. You're trapped. Ah, it's scary. But also it's raining often. The mind is rarely, if you look at your bank account and it's low, your mind says, well, that's not ideal. I appreciate your desire to have stable finances, but you've accomplished a lot. You've never run out of money in the past, so you probably won't do it in the future. So why don't you use your highest self and all the skills in the mind is not constructive. Nothing. Because we learned as a child that yelling is motivating. So the mind yells at you to get you motivated. Now, again, it's like a parent who yells to motivate you, but we all know it maybe works short-term, but not long-term. But if you are yelling at yourself, it creates this fear. You're the one person who's supposed to be nice to yourself. You're yelling at yourself. So anyway, in our program, we have an entire part of the training where you learn to unhook the spin cycle such that in moments of fear, your mind either is quiet or doesn't say anything. But the point is, this creates all these problems. Now, it's not just anxiety and it's not just addiction. It's, again, you can't be the person you want to be for someone who is addicted because there's something that people do to people they love that they don't want to do. And underneath that is feeling unsafe, which is anger and judgment and impatience. People know they don't want to get angry. People know they don't want to be impatient. People know they want to be compassionate. But underneath anger is almost always, I feel unsafe, and this is my protective guard dog coming out to change the situation so I can feel safe. So it's great that you don't want to get mad at somebody. It's great that you want to be kinder to someone. If you feel unsafe, you go into fight or flight and you go into attack mode or run mode. You cannot be that person. So we want to feel safe. Agreed?
Agreed. I certainly don't want to cause disharmony in my family, but I have done it when I have felt unsafe.
Yes. And then when you feel unsafe and you're not the person you want to be, you then beat yourself up because you weren't able to be that person. So the first thing I want to
night when I'm writing in my journal.
Say that again.
Have you been here at night when I'm writing in my journal? Because that's exactly what I'm saying is I acted this way and that is not who I want to show up as. That's not who I want to be.
I understand that. I just work with a lot of people, and our program allows you to feel safe from within. That's where I'm kind of going with this. People say, how can you solve anxiety in 6 weeks? We don't even go after it. Anxiety is the symptom. It's like a tertiary symptom. Anxiety is a label that you put on fear. Underneath fear is safety, and there's something underneath even safety that we address that allows you to feel safe, which means the fear goes down, which means the anxiety goes down, which means the spinning mind goes quiet. But also, people go through our program all the time who have addictive tendencies, whether it's addiction, whether it's dealing with someone in addiction, but also on some level, people who are substance addicted, that's the most obvious place that people do it. That's often the most destructive. People are addicted, obviously, to social media. They're obviously addicted to buying things. They're addicted to a lot of things. We call people who are addicted to drugs the addicts, but trust me, everybody is addicted to something. Why? Because underneath people feel unsafe, and we do not want to feel unsafe. So to deal with that unsafety, we try to avoid it.
Absolutely. To run from it, to numb it out, to freeze around it, all those things.
When we were working with addicts in South Africa, and we were basically using the program we were developing for addiction with people brought the program for anxiety, but we were working with addicts because I knew they were linked. And I told them, I said, you're not addicts, you're avoiders. And that's human nature, and you should have compassion for yourself. So if you're listening to this and you're either an addict or you do things that are addictive, or you can't be angry, you can't be patient, you can't be that nice person, I'm telling you, if you can, have some compassion for yourself. Underneath all of it is you do not feel safe. And if you do not feel safe, every human will reflexively do whatever it takes to feel safe. Is it limiting? Yes, but it's human and understandable. So to you addicts out there, you are not an addict. You are an avoider, limiting, but not quite as mean. Okay, so what do we do? Well, it's to understand why we feel unsafe. Because again, if I tell your audience you feel unsafe, they're not going to say, Daniel, these are shocking accusations. I never thought of it that way. I mean, it makes sense.
Right. Absolutely.
And and Tanya, you already know that a lack of safety is a real issue. You've already done that deeper work, and you already know that, correct?
Sure. So I was completely blindsided for many, many years on why my rage and anger showed up. And after the deeper work and after a program similar to yours, I figured out that it had nothing to do with what was outside of me and everything to do with how safe I felt in my own self.
Incredible that you even know that. Most people don't know that, because to even see that, you have to do deeper work. You have to feel these feelings that you're trying to avoid. So I honor you, Tanya, for knowing that and sharing your deep work with people, because it's going to be more effective because you're actually getting to the root cause. So I appreciate you for that. At the same time, if I say to you, Tanya, okay, a lack of safety is why you can't always show up as the mother and wife you want to be, feel safe. How would you do with that advice?
Okay, Daniel, I'll try.
You will try, and then you will fail.
Yes, and then I will be in the spin cycle to where I feel worse about myself than when we started.
Exactly. So to feel safe, the engineer in me said, okay, well, what's the root cause of that? And most people go blank. They don't know, because safety is primitive.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you what it is. And when you hear it, you're going to go, oh, wow. Oh. And this thing I'm about to tell you is very valuable, because if it goes missing, you're going to feel unsafe. But the beauty of this thing I'm going to share with you is that you can restore it and bring it back. That's the huge breakthrough of our program. It's not the concepts. It's that we understood a root cause that was solvable. And not all root causes are solvable. If you have a car that's not running, you can say the car is broken. You can say you have engine problems. You can say you have a power issue, but it's not solvable. But if you say, oh, you ran out of gas, that's solvable. Take it to the gas station, put the gas in, bada boom, bada bing. So we wanted to come up with an understanding of a root cause that was actually solvable. And everything I'm about to share with you, you're going to hear what I'm saying and what Tanya's saying, and you're going to say, Daniel, this makes sense. This makes sense, Daniel, but how do I know it'll work? And as I always say, do not take my word for it. At the end of this, not yet, keep listening to us because we're special. Go to my website and download a free training where you can apply one of the techniques that goes from the theory that I'm talking about, and you apply it to yourself, and you will feel deeply safer. So I'm just trying to give you a perceptual framework of what's possible. Do not believe me. The next step is to feel it for yourself. So I always like to say that. Okay.
And absolutely go and do that, especially around the holidays, especially when you've got people coming over that you don't necessarily feel comfortable with. You can do it multiple times a day, and it's really easy because I did it last week.
Oh, good. Now, I want to be clear. In the free training that I'm offering, there's a technique that Tanya did and you apply. And it's an incredible technique to apply in the moment to manage your anxiety. But if you know anything about me, I don't like management. There's enough management stuff out there. This technique will manage, but more importantly, it opens up a possibility to have it be gone forever. So you can use it for management around the holidays. Great. However, it will also hopefully open up a window to move beyond management to full liberation. Okay.
Absolutely.
Sound good?
So I want to know what the secret thing is that's under safety because I went blank.
Yeah, I know. Now, again, once I say it, it's going to make a lot of sense because there's nothing I teach that isn't obvious. It's just we saw it in a simple, solvable way. You ready?
I'm more than ready.
Okay. So let's say, and I want your audience to play along. Okay, I'm going to be talking to Tanya, but pretend I'm talking to you, and we're going to play along. Okay. So when I say the word you, I'm talking about Tanya and you, the listener. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's say you, meaning Tanya, and you, the listener. Let's say you and I are friends. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say for many years, I've been a pretty good friend to you.
Mm-hmm.
I do the right things that friends like. I'm kind to you. I'm thoughtful. I'm caring. I stand by you. I'm a good friend. But now let's say, hypothetically, for some unknown reason, all of a sudden that goes out the window. And all of a sudden, for reasons you don't understand, I am not nice to you. In fact, I am mean to you. In fact, you tell me to stop being mean to you, and I tell you I don't care. You tell me what you need, and I say I don't care what you need. You tell me there's this thing that I hate, and you're like, oh, you hate that? I'm going to make you do it more. And you yell and you try and tell me, and I'm meaner and meaner and meaner. Okay, if I act that way, do you feel safe around me?
No, I don't even feel safe with this conversation right now.
I took one acting class in college, so you're seeing my incredible technique. Okay, so you feel unsafe.
Right. I don't like it, and I don't want to be near it.
Of course. But is it fair to say if I treated you this way, you'd feel unsafe?
Absolutely.
Okay, and if you felt unsafe, would you then feel kind of a feeling? It might be fear, might be stress, might be anxious around me.
Yeah, you would be very unpredictable.
Yes, but there's a reason why. Because when I treated you this way, something went missing that is fundamental to a friendship and a connection. When I treated you poorly, what has gone missing that is so important to relationships?
There's so many things that come to mind. A sense of being aware of the other, of a basic connection that everybody's doing the best they can. Am I getting close?
Well, these are excellent guesses, but I like my stuff simple. This is fundamental. What are all relationships, the pillars of all relationships? Like when people say, oh, what do you need in a relationship?
I
starts with a T.
Know that I can
starts with a T.
Trust that I can trust you.
Trust.
Yeah. You've broken my trust by basically flipping your identity. I don't know who this person is who's being mean and uncaring.
Yeah. If I am unkind to you, not just a little while, but for a lot of time, you do not trust me. Agreed?
No, I don't. And I don't trust myself around you because I'm going to be triggered.
Okay. But you don't trust me.
Nope.
You don't trust the situation, do you?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
If you do not trust me, can you see that the resulting feeling would be the feeling of I'm not safe here with this person?
Yeah. It would be run. Run away.
You're already responding. Just keep to the basic mechanics. If I break your trust, You feel unsafe. Yes?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So we were saying, what is underneath safety?
Trust.
Trust.
Oh, Daniel, that's too simple.
I know.
That's way too simple.
I know it is. But think about it to your listeners. If you're around somebody who treats you not great, you'll feel less and less safe. When you feel unsafe, you'll feel less and less trust. When you feel less trust, you will feel unsafe. When you feel unsafe, you'll then feel a feeling called fear. When you feel that feeling called fear, you'll then name it stress, anxious, nervous, worried, panicked. So can you see the logical layers that underneath feelings like anxiety, panic, stress, worry, overwhelm, underneath all that at the very bottom could be a lack of trust?
Absolutely. That's absolutely what happens with the family where there's addiction is they stop trusting the words, the actions, the deeds of the other person. And then they get really angry and controlling.
Exactly. This is obvious with other people, with relationships with others. If you're married, you don't just magically say, oh my God, I just magically came down with unsafety. They broke your trust in little and small ways. We understand that. And that's why when you ask these couples that have been married a long time, what's the key? Trust and communication. It's right in there. You got to do these too. And even communication is really just to build trust. Trust. We understand fully that when trust is broken, we don't feel so good around people and things fall apart quickly and there's pain. But what if, doesn't it make sense? We're in a relationship with ourselves also. And if you do not trust yourself, if you have not treated yourself well for a very long time, you do not trust you. And when you do not trust you, you will feel unsafe from within, which will create fear, which will create anxiety. What the research showed and what our program on some level is based in, and I'm a living example, is that through our exercises daily, you are restoring trust with yourself. When you feel trusting in yourself, you feel safer. When you feel safer, you feel less afraid. When you feel less afraid, when life pushes on you, you feel it, but you feel safe and solid, and you don't feel anxious.
So that mean voice, all those things that you said to me earlier is what I'm saying to myself. And I began to not trust myself.
Yes. In our curriculum, in the early stages, you learn the 29 ways that we are unkind to ourselves, not good to ourselves. There's 29, and they're all things you've probably heard of before. Things like not setting boundaries, being critical, working too hard, not asking for help, not sharing your emotions, all the stuff you know you should do better. You don't always do it, and we think we're getting away with it. If you did it to a friend, if you didn't listen to a friend's boundaries, if a friend said no and you didn't listen, if you treated your friends the way you treated yourself, if you criticized your friends the way you criticize yourself, they wouldn't feel safe around you. They wouldn't be your friend. I used to call myself creepy, doomed, and stupid.
Ouch.
Okay, how long would you be my friend, and how long would you feel safe if when you told me how your day was, I was like, you're creepy, broken, and stupid, Tanya?
No, that goes with the saying that comes out of my program is hurt people hurt people. So if I am hurting myself, I am probably going to say ugly things to you.
100%. Because you can only give someone a gift that you have to give. This behavior that you see people do, and you're like, how can they do that? They think it's okay. That's how they treat themselves. It's all they know. Is it limiting? Is it wrong? Yes. But they cannot give you something they don't have. Everyone has a capacity, and they can't give beyond their capacity. But the breakthrough that we made is that your capacity, how you treat yourself, all this is linked to how you treat yourself every day in little and small ways, which you can see in a marriage. You could have a phenomenally healthy marriage that lasts years and years and years. There's no secret. If you watch them throughout the day, they probably treat each other pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Not fancy. It's not fancy. And the breakthrough we made is all these things that we think we know we should probably do. Like, I should be nicer to myself. Yeah, I should speak up more. Yeah, I probably shouldn't be a perfectionist. You already know these things. What you didn't know is each time you do them, it's about 5 to 20 times a day, you're doing these 29 things. And like debt, they are accumulating day after day after day. And just like if you treat a friend poorly, the longer you treat them poorly, in more ways, they feel more and more unsafe and more anxious. So the big link we saw was these little tiny, basically we call them micro neglects, are small, but they've been building. You figure 20 a day for 5, 10, 20 years, it builds and it builds and it builds. You fundamentally basically do not trust yourself within yourself, which makes you feel unsafe, which leads to addiction, but also anxiety. So the way our program works, we don't even look at anxiety. Basically, through a set of exercises, instead of completely neglecting yourself, you basically just start to be kinder to yourself. Now, it's a bit more strategic and beautiful than that, because if your listeners are going, kindness isn't going to solve this. It's not just kindness. It's a whole system that we've developed to restore trust within your system in a very short period of time. And again, you don't have to believe me, but I did this program with myself 10 years ago, and I have been completely calm for 10 years. Why? Because I feel completely safe within myself. And we have clients that come to us with all this anxiety, thinking they have social anxiety, I have panic attacks, I worry, I have scarcity mindset. And they go through our program and they find out that this is missing safety from lack of trust, from treating yourself poorly. They do the steps and exercises. This happened 3 months ago. One of our clients, was from Chicago or Indiana, and he reached out and he said, oh my God, I have been spending my entire life trying to deal with this. And it's simple. It's dead simple. And he did the exercises and he feels safe within himself. And not only did his anxiety go away, but he says, I just feel safe within myself. So I can be kinder to people. When I'm triggered, I can be nicer because I feel safe and I can be the father and husband that I want to be. So if you're listening to this, if you're either an addict, you are a parent or a friend of an addict, if you have anxiety, anything, if you say, oh my God, I would love to just feel safe. How much would life be? I know you like that idea. You don't think it's possible because you haven't had it for a very long time. And that's why go download the training, do the technique, and you'll feel like a boost in safety that'll show you that's possible. But to you, Tanya, and the whole world, if you could just have a core default safety, how much better would life be for you and how much of a better person would you be?
It's amazing. It's amazing when that happens. And here's the thing. Folks come to me, women, I work particularly with women. Women come to me saying, how do I help my husband, my son, my daughter, my mom, my whoever? How do I do that? Well, you said it earlier, about 10 minutes ago. You can't give what you don't have. So what that person is looking for, right? They're looking for connection. They're looking for a way to feel safe. They haven't been able to provide it for themselves. You can't necessarily provide it for them, but you know what? If you feed it with your own anxiety, you feed it with your own pain, you feed it with your own lack of trust, what's it going to do, Daniel?
It's going to break the cycle and it's going to help.
Well, if you feed it with your own anxiety, your own distrust, your own problems with that, it's going to just get bigger, right?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yes, exactly. It is going to make the cycle worse.
But if you have the safety in yourself, if you feel safe in yourself, then guess what you can do for those people that you love, you want to be connected to. You know that bugging them, setting deadlines, limits, yelling, screaming, all those types of things don't work. You can hold space. And neither Daniel and I, you heard Daniel say it earlier, neither Daniel and I are saying that you don't need boundaries. You do need boundaries. But boundaries are only things that you can control. And guess what? If you can't control your emotions, your anger, your frustration, your anxiety, you're pushing that off onto somebody who is already hurting. And, if I walked into somebody who had a broken leg in the hospital and then hit that cast with my anger, my frustration, my why aren't you up helping me take care of the kids, paying the bills, blah, 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 blah. How much does that help their healing? It doesn't at all. And so when I work with folks in the Grace and Recovery Framework program, when I work with women around that, they are so desperate to help those people who they care for. They are absolutely desperate that they have forgotten, one, who they are, they have forgotten what they need, and they have forgotten to be safe within themselves. So they're taking their anxiety, smushing it up against the other person's anxiety, and just creating this wave monster that feeds each other. And that's why I've been so excited to work with Daniel, in that women that I work with don't want to hear, hey, we need to step back, and get you, your boundaries, your understanding of yourself, and your safety in place so you can hold space for that other person. Daniel, they don't want to hear it, because they want to fix what's out there, because they believe if they fix what's out there, then they will be safe. Tell me what's wrong with that.
What's wrong with it is, A, you're coming from a place of fear. The opposite of fear is love. Now, last I checked, if you really check the tape, if you really check the data and say, what works in this world? What works better? Fear or love? It's love. We all know that, because when we're struggling, we want love, not judgment, which is fear is underneath judgment, because it's basically anger trying to get them. So never in the history of time has anything been based in fear made a situation long-term better. You can control people short-term, but it's a horrible business model, as your listeners already know. And your listeners don't want to hear you need to do it this way, because then they would feel unsafe and they can't pull it off. But on some level, your listeners do know there is a better. I talk to clients and they say, I wish I could be more patient. I wish I could be more. I wish. They know the what. But as long as you feel fundamentally unsafe, you can't do the what. The program that we do, and what also, Tracy, it's the how. How does one actually feel safe? When you feel safe, you can actually be loving. And that love is actually what helps. And I know this for a fact. We had a client who came through with anxiety, but it was made worse because their child was dealing with both anxiety and addiction. And they're like, I know, I just want to love them, but I can't. I'm so scared. I'm scared for them. I'm scared for me. I'm like, I know, it's impossible. So they went through our program. And not only did they just feel safer in the situation, still concerned, still worried, but they could still be loving, but they also understood just the importance of being kind to their child, because they were learning the importance of being kind to themselves. It was a whole holistic approach. And about 5 weeks into the program, they said, Daniel, this is incredible. Not only am I calmer, I'm much more empathetic and understand of what my child is going through. But more importantly, when I saw them struggling, I didn't try to control them. I didn't judge them. I didn't shame them. I really was just present with them and listened for the first time in years. And they said for the first time in 2 years, their child opened up, gave them a hug, and said, I love you too.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. In my program, we would look at that as behaviors make sense. People are doing behaviors that make sense to them. If you are feeling unsafe, fearful, and you feel like you need to control the outside, then, as Daniel said, you're going to start using judgment. You're going to start finding people who are blameworthy. There's all kinds of things that are going to start happening. So that we dovetail so nicely in that, and we're looking at ways to work together. Dovetail so nicely in that our knee-jerk reaction, our reaction, is not the response that our loved ones need. It's not the response that we need as human beings to be kind and caring for ourselves. We haven't talked about all of this, but we need to do an episode, Daniel, on guilt and shame, because that's what begins to kick in as you do reactions, and I'm going to call them reactions that you don't want. So this underlying safety, this underlying trust, it's been just a mind-blowing segment with you. How do you want to put a bow on this and wrap it up so that people can take it with them to the holidays?
Well, as always, I'm all about solution and results. And oftentimes, when it comes to struggle, our struggle, the struggle of others, there's not always things out there that get great results. So people settle for learning and understanding and managing. So if I may say so myself, what I just shared and what Tanya just shared is profound, important knowledge. That underneath all of this is a lack of safety. Even underneath that is a lack of trust. The beauty of that is you can restore trust. You can't magically restore safety. You can't magically eliminate fear. But in relationships that you've had, you've broken trust and you've repaired trust. You know it's possible. The program I have it restores it with yourself. So if you're like, this isn't solvable, if you've solved trust with a friend and felt better around them, you can restore trust with yourself, feel better about yourself. And then that gives you access to be the loving person that you want to be. So what you can do, and this is all theory, but please don't just settle at theory. Don't just sit there and go, oh, this makes so much sense. No, that's just the what. You need the actual how to become safe. You already kind of knew this on some deeper level, maybe different language. The question is, how do you clean this up quickly to be the person you want to be for yourself, to be less anxious, to show up for the people who are addicted? How do you do it? I'm biased. It's what our program does. But first, go and get the technique, which will show you how to at least be safer and calmer through the holidays. It's just management, but it's really sweet management. And it will also open up to a possibility to be permanently restore trust with yourself, feel safe within yourself, so your anxiety goes down, but you can also just be that loving, open-hearted person you want to be. That's the possibility. So that's my bow. Go to my website, danielpackard.com, get the free training. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. And the Grace and Recovery Framework is in production right now. I have a small piece of it. I will be announcing that after the holidays. That small piece of it will most likely be a gift for you, just like Daniel has put out a gift. But we're baking right now. We are baking. It is being mixed. It's going into the oven. And we're going to figure out how Daniel and I can work together, how we can produce something that really brings you into that place where you trust yourself, you feel safe within yourself, that fear and anxiety has gotten on a plane and gone somewhere else, and you can be present for you, and you can be present for the ones in your family that you love and want to connect with. So Daniel, thank you again for being here. I just love doing this with you. We're considering doing it. Give us feedback on what you're getting. We would love to see that on all the platforms we're on, and we would love to answer your questions. So shoot us questions. We will answer those. And thank you, Daniel, and happy holidays.
It was my honor. Happy holidays, happy safety, happy inner trust.